Hello class, this is the first video covering the poetry analysis section. I'll also create another video for the short story section, and I'll also create a video for how to find sources for this assignment. So there will be at least 3 to 4 videos within this unit. So today I'm going to cover just basically how to read poetry using the 5 critical reading steps. So here are the 5 critical reading steps, and I can't stress how important it is that you try not to skip over these steps, that you work through the process. The problem with the literature analysis assignment is that most students do not want to ask questions, they do not want to look up keywords, and it's going to be so important that you do these steps and not try to jump over the steps, but work through the process rather than trying to circumvent the process. So the first thing that you're going to do, you're going to look at the poem, you're going to read it out loud, and you're going to identify the key elements that are within that poem. Not all poetic elements will fit into every single poem, but you do want to try to identify the ones that do fit. And as you identify them, you want to explore how they all work together. And in order to do that, you must ask questions. And that's the second part. And this is the part that students oftentimes want to skip. You want to ask questions about those pieces and wonder how those pieces work together. And then when you answer those questions, because you're going to analyze, you're going to question, and you're going to infer. When you infer, you're making a logical conclusion based on your prior information. So based on your evidence, you're going to ask questions. And again, in order to do that, you have to ask questions, probing questions, and then come to some kind of answer, some kind of conclusion. And then that's where you move into your interpretation. Your interpretation is your synthesis of what you've learned through your analysis and your questions. And again, it should be logic. It should not be just hypothetical guesses. You should be able to look at the text and be able to infer what you know about it, because that interpretation is basically how you will build your analysis. And there will be different interpretations, and you have to be ready and prepared to understand that just because the way that you see it is doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just your interpretation. However, there are what we call misinterpretations. If you miss a step, if you don't ask the right kind of questions, you may misinterpret something. And again, that also has a part with word choice. A word may have many meanings, and it's your task to figure out which meaning is the author trying to use to convey his or her message. And then the last step is to evaluate, and that will be a part of your conclusion, and I'll talk more about that in just a second. Now, these are the 3 basic questions that you will answer for this paper. Your claim will answer what is the author's message. Your body paragraphs will answer by what means does the author uses to convey his or her message. And your conclusion will be the evaluation, and you're going to answer why is the author successful. The paper requirements is that you must have 850 words minimum, 1150 words maximum, using 4 secondary sources, and this does not include your primary source, which will be your poem. And it must be a critical analysis. You will not just simply summarize. You must give your interpretation and give logical reasoning using the poetic elements to validate that reasoning. Here's a list of the poetic elements. You can find more details about them in Blackboard. I have a PowerPoint that goes into details of what these terms mean. You can also use your textbook, or you can use some of the websites that are available on Blackboard. And also, just if you don't know what a word means, try to look it up. And that's going to be, again, how you survive this assignment, is looking up things that you do not know. And that does not mean looking up interpretations, but looking up words that you do not know, and you come to your own interpretations. Okay, because again, there are thousands of interpretations of many of these poems, and they may not all fit how you see it. So you need to do the work on your own, and then once you have come to a conclusion of how you see the poem, then find sources that will help to validate your reasoning. Okay, not make your reasoning, but to support your reasoning. So the poem I will use to show you how to do an analysis is My Papa's Waltz. It is a beautiful poem, and it is highly controversial because of its word choice. So I am going to read it aloud, and as I read it, I want you to try to identify what you believe the poem is about, the subject matter, and how you think that is the subject matter. My Papa's Waltz. The whiskey on your breath could make a small boy dizzy, but I hung on like death, such waltzing was not easy. We romped until the pan slid from the kitchen shelf. My mother's countenance could not unfrown itself. The hand that held my wrist was battered on one knuckle, and every step you missed my right ear scraped a buckle. You beat time on my head with a palm caked hard by dirt, then waltzed me off to bed, still clinging to your shirt. So I want to give you a moment to just look at the poem and think about what you believe is the subject matter. Now what I've done, I have taken the poem and I've started to break the rhyme scheme down so you can see it, and that's why you see the letters on the side. Because with poetry you try to match the rhyming words together, and so that's why you see breath and death, they have the same letter, and dizzy and easy, they have the same letters because they have a rhyme scheme. So you can see how the rhyme scheme works, but also notice that for the second stanza you see that it doesn't go back and forth like the others do. It goes C, D, then E, then back to D. And there's a reason why, and again, those are some of the things that you want to do, is ask those questions. Why doesn't countenance, why is that standing out? Why does it not rhyme like the rest of the poem? But I also have separated the syllables so as you can see how to read poetry as far as how many syllables are in each line and where the stress is and all of that, because understanding where the stress is, how many syllables are in each line, also helps to help you with the understanding of the poem. So for instance, in this first stanza, it has the 6 7 6 7. There are 6 and 7 syllables within each line, and then in the second stanza you only have 6. Each line has 6 within each stanza, and then it moves back to the same form right here. But in the last one, the word hard is added, which disrupts the syllables, the count of the syllables in there. And again, you have to ask, why does he add the word hard in there to disrupt the flow of it? So there's many questions that you can ask within this poem. Also, I had highlighted the words, I highlighted all the what I would consider positive connotative words. Papa is a positive connotative word because it's a term of endearment. Oftentimes when we want to use a negative connotative word relating to a paternal figure, we will say probably father, but he's using the word papa, which is a term of endearment. And the waltz is a very beautiful dance, so that's also a positive connotative word. But you also notice that there's a lot of negative connotative words. Words like whiskey, dizzy, death, romped, unfrowned, held my wrist, battered, missed, scraped, beat, hard, dirt. So there's a lot of negative connotative words. If you said that this poem is about abuse, you would be incorrect. This poem is not about abuse, although it may appear, again, because of all the negative connotative words. But you have to notice that the poem opens and closes with positive connotative words. So you have to again wonder what could the author be doing by opening and closing with these positive connotative words, but filling the poem up with negative connotative words. And again, you have to look at the language and understand how everything works together. And again, like, we romped until the pan slid from the kitchen shelf. My mother's countenance could not frown itself. So a lot of people say that oh, she's upset because the father's beating the child. His hand is battered, so he's been hitting the child. But then you have to go to the last stanza and wonder, why would his hand be caked with with dirt? So again, he's even with the negative connotative words, he adds clues that will help us to understand that this is not about abuse. It's about something much more complex than just abuse. This is more about a relationship between a father and son. And again, that adds more emphasis on the mother's countenance. Again, because it's called My Papa's Waltz. So here is my analysis. This is my breakdown of it, and then again I'm going to walk you through the process. So you begin with analysis and then you move to questions. So it is a first person speaker, but the targeted audience is the father, because it says still clinging to your shirt. It doesn't say his shirt, but it says your shirt. So this is the auditor would be the father. Now we don't know if the father is alive or older, but he is reflecting. The speaker is reflecting on this moment with the father, and it's a nostalgic tone. It's in retrospect. He's thinking back about it, and so again you have this nostalgic feeling through the hung on like death, still clinging, still wanting this moment to last for a little bit longer. The diction, again, as I mentioned, is primary negative connotative word choice, but again, it still has those positive. It opens and closes with positive connotative words, and I'll explain that in just a minute. Then you have the external structure, as I had mentioned, it is free verse, but it has the 6-7 syllable movement, moving either to 6-7, 6-7, or it goes 6-6, and then or it goes 6-7, 6. It goes 6-6-7-6. So it goes back and forth, and again he has a point and purpose for this shift in movement. So some of the questions that I can ask, again going back to the idea, like why is the mother upset? Why would the father's hands be battered and dirty? Why was the father drunk? And why would the speaker want to cling to his drunk father? So these are all questions that I must answer to really understand what the author is trying to say. So one thing I can infer is that she may be upset because the pan slipped from the kitchen shelves, meaning that she's going to have to clean up her kitchen because he is drunk and he is making he is disruptive, and so she's going to have to clean up the mess. But also, this is the father is coming home and he's dancing with his son, and she's not a part of this celebration, is a part of this fun, and so she may be a little jealous not to be included in this. His hands are caked hard by dirt. Is because he's a hard-working man. He works with his hands. So if his hands are caked with dirt, that would also explain why his hands are battered, because he's working with his hands. He's probably working somewhere in the dirt, some kind of blue-collar job, and because of that, his hands are battered. And why did he's drunk because he's probably after work. He's going to stop by and have a few drinks with his friends, and that's probably another reason why the mother's upset, because he's probably coming home late and he's drunk and he's making a mess, and she's going to have to clean it up without even inviting her into the fun. And last but not least, he's clinging to his shirt because, again, he doesn't want the fun to end. He doesn't want this moment to end. This is a moment shared between a father and a son. Yes, they're making a mess, but they don't care. He's having a moment with his father, a very cherished moment with his father. So my interpretation would be, again, the subject of this is the loss of childhood and or the father. Again, we don't know, but given the tone and the fact that we have this idea of time, he beat time on my head, and the idea of time and hung on like death and clinging like this. The speaker doesn't want to let this moment go, and so he's holding on to this moment, wanting to cherish the moment for as long as he possibly can. And the central message that I get from this, what I think that the author is trying to tell me, is that this bond between a father and son is eternal, that is lasting, even after a person, the father or the son, is gone, that it remains in memory. And again, that goes back to the idea of reflection. So I'm going to stop here with my interpretation, and the next group of videos will cover how to move from taking that central message and finding sources to support it. I hope this has been helpful, but if you have questions, feel free to contact me.